he did get the okay that he could be a write-in candidate this week and was at a a community forum, a mayoral candidate forum, and also the TV ads are starting to hit the air.
This is a big challenge for him. I think this is a big mountain to climb. He's got to he's got to educate enough people to go out to the polls and write his name in the right place, in the right way. I figure he's got to get, what, about 20,000 votes, Steve?
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
And, that is all. And, his whole effort has to be finding, training those 20,000 voters, and then make sure on election day they get out and vote.
Is it feasible? Is it possible that he's going to be able to get this done?
I think it's very possible. I mean, part of the reason I think it's possible is that who else would be second, right? Everybody else is polling in single digits or just barely 2 digits in that race. Before he got kicked off, he was at 34% of the vote. So there's not a good reason to believe that anybody else can step up and take that from him. But it is a question of getting his people to the polls and making sure they do it the right way. But I'm not sure anyone else can do it.
You got to count on people remembering. Yeah, and you saw in the 11th district congressional race last year, Nancy Cassis just failed miserably.
One of the differences, though,
I would say name recognition, though. Wouldn't you say that Mike Duggan's got higher name recognition than Nancy Cassis did, and even in that?
But his name's not going to be on that ballot, and so you've got to overcome voter confusion, because there's still going to be a tremendous number of people coming to the polls expecting to see his name on the ballot.
Well, the other advantage he has is that the way the ballot is structured this time, he's at the top of the ballot. It's the very first race that you get to vote for in the city. His name's not there, but you don't have to remember for long.
But if you're going in thinking that it's the first thing that you have to address, it's not like you have to go down the ballot, Lou. How effective are the TV ads so far? Have you seen it?
I saw one this morning. It looked all right. I think that's part of his effort, but I think the bigger part of his effort will be very grassroots, going and meeting with groups of people and showing them how to do
We also saw Benny Napoleon get onto the air this week.
Yes, that's it.
His first TV ad. He's got to step up his campaign. I mean, he's doing a lot of things, but he's not getting a lot of attention.
But maybe he feels like he doesn't have to. He could just kind of sit back and say, hey, I'm the big-time front runner, and I don't really have to make many mistakes.
I think that's an error on his part. His campaign's frustrated. I think they feel like the media are obsessed with Mike Duggan and giving him a lot of attention. It's an anomalous campaign. That's why it gets headlines.
Okay.
But you got to compete with that.
Are you guys obsessed with Mike Duggan's campaign? Do you think the media do you think the media has been paying too much attention to Mike Duggan?
Well, that's where the news has been. I mean, and that's been forced by the lawsuits. And I mean, you can't ignore the fact that a guy gets kicked off the ballot and starts a write-in campaign. Of course you pay attention. I mean, Benny might be fortunate that nobody is paying attention to his campaign. You had that whole business, the contracting business come down during this Duggan thing, and nobody paid a whole lot of attention to that. He might be better off out of the spotlight. He's going to win a spot on the general election. He doesn't have to get all sweaty during the primary. He can wait, save, and make his push after August 6th.
Oh, it's always interesting to watch. All right, let's turn now to school systems across the state. The financial struggles of a few districts have now started a big conversation at the state level to consolidate on a county-wide basis. This week, the state superintendent proposed that districts centralize food service, transportation, curriculum development, teacher training, and evaluation, among other things, through the existing intermediate school districts already in place. There are many questions on how effective this could be. So, Nolan, let me start with you. How impressed were you or not with Mike Flanagan's proposal?
It's a good common sense plan. We have too many school districts, 549 or somewhere in that area. And, in most other states, they have countywide school systems. Michigan is fairly unique in having all of these little individual units of governance. Could save tremendous money on administration and overhead, but you can also sort of smooth out these enrollment fluctuations that have led to troubles in places like Buena Vista, Pontiac, Saginaw. So, I mean, you can better manage your schools. You can educate children at lower cost. You can free up money for the classroom. It's a good idea, which means it's probably going nowhere in Lansing.
Oh, glass half empty. So what did you think, Stephen?
Yeah, no, I think this is a great idea, and I want to give Mike Flanagan a lot of credit for stepping into the void here and saying, here's something we can do. I've been very frustrated with this governor for not doing more things like this. I think he's got several fires burning out there. School districts is one, municipal government is another, where his approach has been to sort of deal around the edges and try to sort of incentivize people to do better. I think you got to show some leadership and say, this is how we will do better, and this is what we want to get done. We still are going to need him to do that if we're going to get something like this through the legislature.
So do you believe that this proposal directly addresses what would be the money problems in those some smaller districts that have had to close down?
It helps. I mean, it's not
everything.
It's not going to solve the whole problem, but it is going to get to this core problem we have in government in Michigan, and that is inefficiency, redundancy. It's not just school districts. We have too many local units of government. We have too many police departments, fire departments, chiefs, superintendents. We've got to cut down and put the emphasis on service delivery rather than administrative costs.
Would some of the criticism be, though, that now you make these huge units of government, and then maybe it takes out some of the personalization of it, or people feel that with their school district, especially, that they are not heard because it's not as small?
Well, I mean, how much are you actually heard? I mean, as a parent, how much are you heard in the school district? Anyway, I mean, you're heard in your school, right? If you're a parent, you're concerned about what's going on in your school with your teachers and your principal. That's where the most interaction takes place. This is a myth about this influence that people think they have over school districts. That's about politics. It's not about schools, and it'll be good for us to get away from some of that.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not proposing big Detroit-style school districts. That would be a huge mistake. What he's proposing is the ISDs, the intermediate school districts, take over all this back shop, and then we turn the education over to the individual schools. So you have site-based education, site-based management, where parents actually have more of a voice and a greater influence.
Okay, so again, if this is a good idea in theory, let's talk about the timing of this whole thing, because you've got school districts that can't afford to wait because of the dire straits that they're in financially right now. Where does this go from here, and how long does it take before maybe something turns into an actual plan that we're starting to work on?
It's going to take more than 150 law changes to implement. So I mean, you can.
Okay, so where does that?
It's not
staggering,
going to solve
though.
this fall's problems.
No, okay,
it won't
so
solve this school year, and at the end of this school year, you're going to see a handful of districts run out of money again. Because of the way that things are structured and the way that the school aid fund is now distributed. So again, if you're the governor of this state, I'm not sure why it's not an embarrassment to you that school districts run out of money at the end of the year. You've got to start stepping up and saying, we need 150 law changes. Let's start getting them done. They come back in the fall for their fall session. Let's see some bills on the table.
And I think you will. I mean, this is not a governor who's been content to just sit still and watch things deteriorate as his predecessor did. I mean, he's a governor of action. I think you'll see action.
We have any
on
school
these
districts closed
ideas.
under Jennifer Granholm?
We had the setup to these problems. These problems just didn't start overnight.
I agree.
I mean, for a guy who sat there and was patient with her ineptitude and inaction for 8 years, you certainly have high expectations for this governor.
Really?
Well, here we go.
Really?
I'm just going to sit back now.
Hold
Go
on
ahead,
a second.
Stephen. Feel free to respond to that. I'm just going to get my popcorn
we were
out.
terribly impatient
nobody remembers
with Jennifer Granholm. We were mad about her not taking over Detroit schools before she did. I mean, again, this governor has done a lot of things that I think have shown a lot more leadership than Jennifer Granholm did. This is not one of them. This is someplace where he's sitting on the sidelines.
Than most other governors.
He
have done
has
in 2 terms.
That's true, but not on this.
They're moving, Steve. You don't just wave a wand and it gets done. He's put this process in motion. You've got a plan now on the table, and they'll debate
Jenny,
it out.
isn't there now a work group that's been formed to talk about this as well?
Like 5 work groups. That's
And
one of
Don't you like a work group?
Secret. Yeah.
yeah,
That's not a secret work group as we know about it. All right.